Hello everyone, good evening. Please confirm you can hear me by raising your hands. And confirm you can hear me clearly, please. Okay, thank you very much for the feedback. You can lower your hands now. Okay, so how have we been? How has the week been? How has everything been? I hope we're all good. And I hope we're enjoying our journey so far and learning new stuff. So I sent this slide ahead of time so that we could read it and read ahead of the class, do your own research and all of that. I'm sorry I was unavailable for the last class because I wasn't feeling too well, and the doctor asked me to take a week off, so I asked ICASE to do a review session, and I hope it helped. So we're going to be going straight into today's class. So like I said, we'll be going into Figma today. We'll be talking about UI, everything about UI, everything you need to know about UI today. And then we'll go into Figma at the end of the class. I hope you are excited because this class is going to be an interactive one. Okay, so the topic for today is Introduction to UI Design 1, because UI design is actually broad and we cannot finish everything in a day. Okay, so we're looking at the part 1 today. Everything you need to know about UI design, okay, the principles, everything you need to apply when you're making your design, okay, to be able to create beautiful products that our users can actually interact with. Okay, so what are the goals of today's class? User interface, design patterns, everything you need to know. Key principles of visual hierarchy in UX design, interact with Figma interface, and lastly, the resources. I hope you guys have created an account on Figma, okay, and you're already on the board trying out stuff. So first of all, before we even talk about the patterns, let's remind ourselves, what is UI? User interface, like I said before, refers to the aesthetic element by which people interact with a product, such as buttons, icons, menu bars, typography, colors, and more. Okay, so when we use different applications, could be a notebook app, WhatsApp, they have buttons, okay, call to action, buttons, icons, menu bars, typography, colors, and the rest of that we identify these applications with. So that is what UI is all about. It is focused it's focused on the product surfaces, okay, the product interface, how it looks and how it functions. That's what UI is all about. And I'm very sure we already know what UI is all about. Okay, so before we go into the UI design patterns, have we ever noticed how most applications we have used are relatively similar? Most login screens will be made of the two input fields, requesting your username, your password, together with a button to submit the keyed in information. I'm sure we have actually used applications and they're relatively similar. So if you go on Facebook, for instance, and you do not have an account and you want to create an account, there's a particular way, okay, the sign up screen looks like. And it's the same way that sign up screen is on another application. I don't know if you guys understand. Like they're following the same pattern. Okay, I like to be practical. So I'm going to give you guys an example. Let's say I walk into a Market Square. We all know Market Square. And I want to make a purchase. So I walk into the shopping mall and I pick up probably a loaf of bread because I am obsessed with bread actually. And I pick up a loaf of bread, and then what else? I move to the cashier to make my payment. Okay, so if what do I use here? Aderonke on this call walks into the same market square, into the same shopping mall, and picks up something, okay, whatever the person wants to get. What else is Aderonke going to do? Walk to the cashier just like I did. So we're following the same pattern now. He or she walks to the cashier too and makes payments. Okay, so now I'm very sure you guys have gotten the idea, or you have an idea of where I am driving at. So I make use of an application, Facebook, and the sign up screen, it appears a certain way. Okay, you know the where you have the input where you have to put in your username, your password, and then you have a button that says login. If I go into another, like use another application, okay, and I want to log in, it has the same, almost the same interface, okay, almost the same pattern. So let's just get right into it. What are UI design patterns? UI design patterns are reusable, recurring components which designers use to solve common problems in user interface design. This is what UI patterns are. Okay, but as designers, right? Are we just going to go about copying each other's work? No, I totally disagree to that. Many of us use interface and interaction design patterns to shape our work. Okay, and as a result, we design similar looking user interfaces. That's why I said you could go on Facebook and you want to log in. And the same way the login screen is, could be the same way the login screen will be on another application, because we're following a particular pattern. Okay. So that's why my login screen might be similar to EH's login screen, the mentor on this call, or similar to Aderonke's screen. Okay, if we're to design a login screen, similar to design Chase screen too. So in today's class, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about UI design patterns. So I said UI design patterns are recurring solutions to common problems in user interface design. What do I mean by this? By creating a library of components that provide proven solutions to users' problems, developers, okay, were able to cut down the time they spend creating and testing parts, the overall development process. It did not take long for us UI designers to pick up on the benefits of these UI design patterns. So I'm sure Ikes will understand better because he's an Android developer. So he knows that, a login or sign up screen is supposed to follow a certain pattern. I don't know, Ikes, would you like to chip in something regarding this before we go on, regarding what I just said?
Okay, well, can you hear me? Hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, maybe just say something on the chat. I need to be sure.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, yes. So being an Android developer, of course, there are actually patterns to design, and I think one of the very good thing about having a pattern is because it helps you to, it helps designers, to actually have a form that a user can actually understand. Okay, because now if we leave, I believe that if we leave designers, okay, to do whatever they want, trust me, you have a lot of you have diverse interfaces, because of course as a designer you want to bring in your creativity. There are certain, I've seen some designs where the person told me this was a button, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Said, yeah, that's just how he thought about it, that the button. I'm like, well, it's actually cool, but you are not following the patterns. And these patterns are more like guidelines. They are there to actually guide, there are some persons say they are restrictions, but I wouldn't really agree. They are there to actually guide designers, okay, into making sure that whatever creativity they want to bring into is within the confines of what is accepted and what users can actually what understand. Okay, so I think that's just what I would just put out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ike. So I want you guys to hear from his own perspective, being an Android developer. Okay, so UI design patterns are everywhere on websites and applications and are familiar to users. It will take seconds for a user to understand what to do within an interface designed with common UI design patterns. Okay, so imagine being a user and you have used different applications, because I know a lot of us on this call we've used different applications, we've interacted with different products. Okay, so already in your head, you know that, okay, a sign up screen is supposed to look this particular way. You do not expect to come and see something different. Okay, so what does UI design pattern does? It actually makes it easier for the users to navigate. They don't get confused or lost. That's exactly what UI design patterns does. So adopting common patterns means you can leverage on this knowledge and increase the ease of use of your product. And again, like I said, I love to be very practical in my class so that you guys can understand. So I'll give you another example. Okay, most of us wear t-shirts, right? A lot of us wear t-shirts. Personally, I love oversized t-shirts. Okay, so my t-shirt and yours may vary in size and fit, but both of them are recognizable as t-shirts. It doesn't change the fact that they are t-shirts. So we can decide to, add little pockets by the side, or print my name on it, or do all kind of stuff to them. No matter what we do to that t-shirt, the structure is pretty much the same. It doesn't change the fact that it is a t-shirt. So like he said, like Ike's rightly said, you can bring in your own creativity, okay, but it should still fall back to the basics. This is what is accepted. This is the interface that users are familiar with. Okay, we do not want to confuse them with our creativity. Okay, we do not want to do something out of what people already know. Like they already know a sign up screen is supposed to be like this, a login screen is supposed to be like this. So imagine coming on an application and then you're seeing the login button, that's the call to action button. You're seeing it at the top before you see the boxes that, okay, you're supposed to fill in your names. You're seeing the button at the top. Normally it's supposed to be below, the field where you're putting in your name and your username, but you see at the top. That's going to confuse you. You'll be like, what's going on here? So I'm sure you understand exactly what UI design patterns are. They are similar. They offer a general structure that we can work off on, add or subtract or alter the parts to fit into a particular set of requirements unique to our own design project. So I am actually done explaining and I hope you guys understand. So we're going to be talking about why UI design patterns are important. Why are we screaming about this thing? Why are we talking about this thing? UI design patterns aren't just common features that can be copy pasted into an interface. No. They are visual strategies for quickly and efficiently solving common UI design problems. Okay, to make it easier, think of them as a blueprint that designers refer back to for guidance when creating interfaces. You know what else design pattern does? It actually provides a common language for designers, which keeps misunderstandings to a minimum and establishes consistency when multiple designers are working on the same project. So let's say we go into a project phase now. Okay, we have group 1, we have group 2. We all, let's say we're particular set of people are in group 1. Maybe Aderonke, Alvan, Anita, Amarachi, you guys, all of you guys are in group 1. Okay. And then already there should be a particular design pattern that you guys are following. All right. If the design pattern that you guys are following on for the navigation is that you're making use, let's say you guys are designing a mobile app, you're making use of a bottom nav. Okay. You do not expect Alvan to create a design maybe for the homepage, and it places the it rather, instead of putting a bottom nav, it gives you a menu bar, okay, by the side. Like he puts the icons there, the home icon, the search, and all of that. Or maybe you were asked to replicate Instagram application. Let me use that because we're all familiar with that. I know that the bottom nav bar is always, below. We have a bottom nav bar. And then all of a sudden, you guys are working on a project. Everybody knows that this is the pattern we're following. But then Alvan decides that he wants his own to be at the side, not on the bottom. Okay, that will bring misunderstandings. And it's surely going to, delay the whole process. So, like I said, what does this thing do? It provides a common language for designers. Okay, so before we go into this project, I already know that, okay, I am using this particular design patterns. This is the particular design pattern we're using for this application. This is the way this thing is going to be. This is how it is going to, this is how it's going to be structured and all of that. Now, take notes. UI design patterns aren't useful for only designers. In case you're wondering, oh, maybe this is just for the benefit of designers. They're also important when it comes to, user retention. The reason why so many applications and websites feel so easy to navigate, we don't have to put up a manual or something, is because of common UI design patterns. So now imagine logging into a website that doesn't have a navigation bar or any clear buttons. Imagine logging into that kind of website. Confusing, right? So when users become used to seeing specific patterns, any change to those patterns could result to losing out on key leads. I already said this. A user already, before coming to your application or your website, or before using your product, already knows that, okay, I've actually logged in before. I've signed up before, and there's a particular way this thing should go. So coming in and seeing something different, okay, it's going to confuse them, and we do not want that. That's why UI design patterns are very, very important. This is who is Louise on this call? Please stop whatever you're doing and just pay attention. You're trying to get access to remote control or something. Please do not distract us. Okay, so like I was saying before that happened, okay, I said it's using design patterns actually very helpful for the users too. Okay, because it actually makes it very easy for them to navigate through our product. So now, because of time, we have a lot to cover today, so I'll just be brushing through, but I'm going to make sure that I do not skip anything and I'm not too fast. It's the reason why I sent out the slide earlier, so that we can read, do our research, and understand. So we do not have to waste much time in today's class. So the UI design pattern follows a particular formula. And we have one, the problem. What does the user want to do? That's the first formula. What does the user want to do? So since we've been using login as a reference, I'll just say the user wants to log in. Now the context, when should the pattern be used? Okay, so as a designer, you have a library, okay, for your patterns. So you know that a login screen has a particular pattern. But then the context, when should I use this? And then what is the solution? The user was able to navigate and log in. That's the possible solution. Then the examples we have, where and how has the pattern been implemented before? Going through other applications, other websites, you've seen a lot of websites and applications. So where has this particular pattern been implemented before? How was it placed? How was this content structured? These are all things we need to take note of when we're, making use of the whole design patterns. So, what are the most common UI design patterns? I know we've been talking about UI design patterns, UI design patterns. So, I'm just going to show you guys a few that I know, and I'm very sure you guys have, you can relate to them. You've seen them very often. So, the first one is social sharing. These patterns facilitate the promotion and sharing of content onto various social platforms. This is it. You've seen this 1,000 times, okay? So you can see the icon here, the icon for share here. It's been highlighted. And then you've seen this modal popped up. So even if you want to open up your WhatsApp now, as I'm talking, okay, and then you want to share a file to somebody, you see this modal open up. So it will give you options. You can either share to Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, or show them to people's mails. So this is a particular pattern for social sharing. Okay, and a lot of UI UX designers have used this. So users can actually relate to this. So imagine if, I'm trying not to sound funny right now, but imagine if you come on an application, okay, and then you click on this share icon, but then instead of the modal to come up like this, like from the bottom, it comes down from the top. That would be very, very funny, right? Okay, because we're used to seeing this coming up from the bottom, the modal sliding up from the bottom. Okay, so this is an example of a UI design pattern, the social sharing. A lot of applications make use of this particular pattern. So next we'll be looking at navigation. Navigational patterns help guide users around the interface, ensuring they're able to find their way back to the homepage if they get lost. Okay, so navigation is right. We have the bottom nav bar. Okay, so if I am going to wherever, let's say Instagram, for instance, okay, and I want to search for the famous celebrity, I want to go through their IG page, I want to see what's going on, and then I want to go back to my home. Okay, the button is already there on the bottom nav, so all I have to do is just click. But imagine if the application didn't have like a home icon, I'll easily get lost. I would not even know how to go back to the home page. Okay, so that's an example of navigational patterns. We also have this. So this is notification. So I do not have to I do not have to start stressing. If I want to I can just get notifications. Okay, the user wants to be informed about important updates and messages. So we use this to draw attention to important updates and messages. So when a user clicks on this, it drops down and you see the list of notifications. And lastly, we have the input and output. So these patterns include various forms that allows users to submit information or receive feedback from the site based on an action. We've actually gone through this a lot. We've made use of this. We've actually interacted with products that have this particular, pattern. Example, we have the the create account, where we have to put in our names, full names, email address, all of that information. The login, the same thing. If I want to edit my profile, the same thing. I want to create an account, the same thing. Okay, or if I want to maybe buy something from Jumia, anything that has to do with, filling in information. I have an example here. So you can see this. This is a perfect example where I have to put in information. So these are all common UI design patterns. I brought these examples up because I know that we can actually relate with them. Okay, we've seen them 1,000 times. So these are a few common UI design patterns. Now, in case you're wondering how to use these design patterns, okay. In case you're wondering, now listen, UI design patterns cannot be plugged directly into an interface. You and I need to tailor them to fit a particular scenario. So how do we do it? You start off by defining the problem you're tackling. Now, with a clear problem in mind, head over to your favorite UI design pattern library. Click on the category that best fits your need. I'm sure you guys explored the examples I mentioned in the slides. I mentioned a few examples on the slide. I'm sure you guys checked it out. If you didn't, that's so bad. But I just hope a lot of you checked it out. So check out all the different examples listed. How is the pattern meant to be used? How have other designers used it? These are questions you need to ask yourself. Okay, how did design she use this when she was designing a login screen? How did he or she use this when he was designing a home page? How can I learn from it? How can you learn from it? Okay, so pay attention to the different kinds of elements used and how they are structured. Leverage on this knowledge shared about this particular UI design pattern and create your own solution. So I just told you how to create yours, how to go about it. So these are places you can find existing UI design pattern libraries. We have Mobin, we have UI Garage, you have UI patterns and patterns. There's actually no shortage of UI design pattern libraries that offer inspiration and a wealth of information. So these are my all-time favorites. My all-time favorite libraries. I just listed them out: Mobile, UI Garage, and the likes. So to start, I'll recommend UI patterns. Why? I mean, the other libraries are great, but they do not offer as much, documentation as the UI pattern does. You can check it out yourself. So looking through all these libraries and seeing all these solutions everywhere may have you thinking that there is no room for innovation in your UI. But that's not true. There's plenty of room for new solutions. So if you're working on a project or you're working on a design and no pattern fits the problem you're trying to solve, or you cannot find one to use as a structure, feel free to draft up your own. Okay, just remember to run a test and work on to help identify the possible pain points so you do not end up, putting your creativity into test and then building something that users cannot interact with. So if you're going to come up with yours, make sure that it still follows a particular pattern, okay, so that the users do not get confused while trying to navigate through your product, your application, or website. Now, how do you create your own UI design pattern library? In case you're asking, how do I do this? Well, I have actually made it a point to analyze apps that I enjoy and also the ones that I do not. I like to take screenshots and study different UI design patterns in use. And gradually, I've begun to build a library of my own. I reference it often and draw inspiration from it consistently. So having your own UI design pattern to serve as a style guide is always a great idea and a lot easier than you think. So I know that this is a particular way I like to, structure my content. This is a particular way I like to put up my stuff when I am designing. So next time you're enjoying an experience or frustrated by it, I'd like you to stop to consider why. Take a screenshot, make notes, and begin to build your own solutions. So I think I've been talking for a long time. There you have it. Everything you need to know about UI design patterns. It might seem like a lot to digest, but once you get the hang of them, they'll make your design process a lot more smoother. So that's all there is. That's what UI design patterns are all about. Okay, certain recurring solutions to problems, things that UI UX designers make use of. We refer back to for guidance. We want to design an application. So let's say I'm working on an application now. First of all, I need to understand the application, trying to map out how this is going to look. But then I'm going to create a mood board for myself, go out there, find inspirations. I'm not going to copy and paste what the person did. I'm just going to follow a particular pattern. So we're having a conversation the other day, myself, Yechi, and Ikes in the office, and they might mention about people going to dribble. Okay, they're working on a project, right? But then they go on dribble, they get a particular, they see this inspiration, they see a particular way this design was implemented. And instead of them to just get the idea or get the hang of it, what they don't do is replicate exactly the same design on their interface, which is completely wrong. Okay, it is completely wrong. I mean, it is not bad to get inspiration and all of that, but don't copy and paste what somebody already did. Okay, just get the whole pattern. This is how this person structured it. Okay, that means I have to structure mine this way and all of that. You do not have to copy and paste. So someone is saying, I should repeat, we do not really have much time, but I'll just go through it for the last time. So how do you create your own UI design patterns? I talked about how I have made it a point to analyze apps that I enjoy and those that I do not, the apps that frustrate me and those that I actually enjoy using. Okay, when I now do this, I take screenshots. I have a lot of screenshots on my laptop, okay, of the applications that I have seen and I loved the way the interfaces look. Okay, or applications that I have actually interacted with and I love how simple it is. I love the pattern. So this is how I begin to build my library. Okay, and I reference it more often. Like I go back to this screenshot that I have taken. Okay, and I draw inspiration from it. And I remember saying that having your own UI design pattern, it could serve as a style guide, which is actually a good thing because it makes your whole design process very, very easy. So what I said was the next time you're enjoying an experience, okay, you're going through an application, you're using a website and all of that, I like you to take a screenshot. If you enjoy it, take a screenshot. If you're frustrated, take a screenshot and then ask yourself why. Okay, why is this application like this? Why is this particular thing frustrating me and all of that? Take notes and begin to build your own solutions. Okay, that's how you create better interfaces. That's how you come up with better solutions for your application or whatever you are working on. So with that, I'm going to move on now. So next up, we have key principles of visual hierarchy in UX design. So design actually was bettered before we were all born. Okay, before you and I were born, we had design. Our great grandfathers made use of designs to communicate. Even when there were no phones, they probably drew something on the ground or on the walls. Okay, each and every one of these designs were actually, they conveyed a message. All right, so Designs were actually used to convey messages those days and communicate, and that hasn't changed. We have used and still continue to use design to communicate important messages. So that's why every element in your design should help improve your user's experience and clearly convey a message rather than confuse them. Okay, so in today's class, we're going to learn about visual hierarchy in UI, UX design and how we can use it to improve our product and optimize our users' experiences. So now, what is visual hierarchy? Visual hierarchy is used to rank design elements and influence rather in the order you want your users to view them by using principles like contrast, scale, balance, and more. I remember design she taught you guys the principles of design, principles and elements. She talked about contrast, she talked about scale, balance, and all of that. So what contrast basically does is draw the eyes of the viewer to a particular area. So technically, it is the visible difference in properties of design elements. You should note that contrast is not all about color. Okay, it is not only about color. It is the difference in properties, okay, of design elements. That's what contrast is technically is. Okay, so you can help establish each element in its rightful place and help the most important elements to stand out. This is what visual hierarchy is. You're ranking design elements in the orders that you want the users to view them. So I am coming on a website. Okay, or let's say I'm designing a website. If I want the users to look at the okay, let's say we have the hero section now. To look at my logo first, and then from my logo you have the navigation bar, okay, and then it falls down to the content, the write up on the screen, and then the button, the call to action button. I can actually do that. Okay, I can actually arrange my design in a way that I want them to view them. So if I want them to look at this first, I'll make that even more prominent. That's basically what hierarchy is, ranking this design elements in the order that we want our users to view them. If I want them to see this first, then I have to make that more prominent. Okay. So with that being said, why is visual hierarchy important in UX design? Visual hierarchy can play a key role in the planning of your information architecture. We talked about information architecture, the structuring of content and all of that to help your users navigate through your product easier. This can drastically reduce the amount of effort needed to engage with your product. That's what visual hierarchy does. Okay, so already we know that UX design is all about removing friction and enhancing the usability of a product. So paying attention to visual hierarchy is the key way to do this. That's why it is very, very important. It helps our users to, direct their focus. It more like it gives their eyes a journey from here to there and to this part to wherever. Like if you want their eyes to go a particular way to if to view something, a particular icon, particular element first, you can actually do that by making use of visual hierarchy. It could be with the color, it could be with the scale, the way you scale the elements, the sizing of the elements, contrast, and all of that. I think basically visual hierarchies is more about the way you play with the principles of your design, the way you walk around with the principles of your design, okay, and do all of that. So let's take a look at some of these principles and how they work to help influence the navigation of your content. Key principles of visual hierarchy. Number one, using size and scale to pull focus. Two, using color and contrast to make objects stand out, playing with perspective, harnessing typefaces. Texture and tone can direct attention. So we're going to be looking at this one after the other, and I'm going to explain it to you guys. First is using size and scale to pull focus. Sizing actually is a very basic but crucial principle. It gives elements more importance than others and helps to draw attention or to draw the viewer's eye towards a certain area. So by increasing the scale of an element, you can immediately attract the viewer's attention. But you must be careful. Okay, you must be careful so as not to enlarge too many elements or increase the size in a way that might decrease the importance of other elements on the screen. So you should take note of that. Now notice in the example illustration I put up here, I'm sure you guys can all see it, where your eyes are drawn to. I mean, we all know that this is not the size of an actual phone. Okay, we all know that this is not the actual size of a mobile phone. So this is what sizing does. We resize this phone to look this big. Okay, we use scale here to pull focus. So this is an example of what I am talking about, using scale and focus to pull focus. Sorry, using scale and size and scale rather to pull focus. And this is a key principle of visual hierarchy. Now we're going to move into the next one. Using color and contrast to make objects stand out. So already we know that we've seen the particular element here that is actually popping out, the element that actually stood out. We have, okay, we have 12 elements here. The one on the second row, the second one on the, the second row is actually, it has a different color. And that's the first thing we saw. Why? Because it is outstanding. The color and everything, it is outstanding. So that's the first thing our eyes went to. So colors, just like size, can be used to give importance to elements in your design. So brighter colors are typically going to grab the viewer's attention much more than duller colors. So you have to take note of this when you're creating your design. So if you want your viewer's eye to, you want to attract their attention to a particular area, you have to make use of color and contrast in order to make these elements stand out. Now, playing with perspective. Okay, this is where I'm going to ask a question. And I think I'll just call someone out. I'm looking for a name I can pronounce, please. Okay, so we have two examples here, the one on the left and the one on the right. And I need somebody to tell me why, and okay, what is wrong with the one on the left? Okay, or the difference between them, basically. Leo, can you calm down? Be calming down for the Lord. All right, Leo Ekene, please unmute and tell us.
I think the one on the left, the words there are very hard to see. Why the ones on the right, since the background is blurred, at least you can see what is written on the surface of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Kenny or Soba, please unmute and tell us. We don't have much time, so I'll just be calling a few people.
Yes, thank you. It's the same thing I was going to say. The one on the right is clearer. We can see it easily.
All right, thank you very much. Vic, what do you have to tell us?
Good evening. The one on the left is like, it doesn't help for readability sake and it's very, very hard to read. And the one on the right is much more clearer because of the blurry background, which it helps with the contrast, so it's better to read. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll just take one girl. It's so unfair that there's nobody saying, no girl saying anything. Where did she run to? Okay, I think she dropped her hand. Okay, okay, Olamide, please tell us before we move on.
Yeah, as they have all said, the first one is dragging for attention with the wordings. We can't see, it's just the picture at the back, and majorly maybe the designer wants us to actually see that it's for lean and clean eating, but we can't see any of that. It's
Thank
just
you
the
very much.
picture we can really see. Thank you.
Thank you. The rest of you can lower your hands, please. Thank you very much for attempting that question. So yes, by playing with perspective in your design, you can actually create an illusion of distance and separation in your elements. What does this do? It helps to bring focus to the areas that are important in your design. A few ways you can give the illusion of perspective is by increasing the size of elements in relation to those around it. This will help those elements appear closer to you. Adding drop shadows or adding a blur over the background can actually have a dramatic effect and help you to do this. So now take a look at this example. The one on the left, just like they said, I mean, all the elements appear flat with no depth. And the text is hard to read. Even with my lenses on, I can hardly see a thing, okay? Why is that? Because the contrast competes with the background. And there is no shadow effect helping the text lift up the image. Everything is just there. Okay, but then in the right image, on the other hand, has a blur added to the background image and a shadow added to the text. What did this do? It helped the text to be readable. It helps gives these elements some distance and it makes the text easy to visualize and read. So this is what playing with perspective does. Okay, making use of contrast and all of that, it makes your text readable. And it gives this separation or distance between the elements. So when we added the shadow to the text and then the blur to the background image, it made a lot of sense. Now we could read. So a lot of people like to place images, okay, on the hero section of their websites. So if you actually want to design a website and you want to place an image, you should make use of this. You cannot just place an image and then probably the image has a kind of white background and then you put a white text on it. That is absolutely wrong. So what you have to do is put blur to the background image in order to make the text readable and add shadow to the text too, okay, to differentiate between the two elements. Okay, so we're going to move into the next one because we don't have time. Harnessing typefaces. Harnessing typefaces. So we can see this example here. Well, the right pairing of typefaces can give your website its own personality and call attention to certain areas. So typefaces with different sizes and weights can also be used to increase hierarchy and make more important text elements stand out. So most websites are designed to make use of different size headings as well as give importance or call out the content associated with them. Okay, so it is very good practice to make use of. We're going to talk about style guide, but definitely not today, in our next class. So it's what we call heading 1. It's what we call heading 1. EH can relate with this, and the rest of you who have a fair knowledge on design can actually relate with this too. So it's what we call heading 1, and this appears to be the largest and most important headline of a page on a website. So if you go on a website and then you see that the particular text you use, maybe for the hero session, has the biggest font. Okay, that's like the biggest font. That's the heading 1. Okay, so like I said, this is the largest and most important headline of a page. And you can use heading 2, heading 3, and so on to call out less important areas. So in this example, like you can see on your screen, we have 3 different font sizes. But notice how the bottom font size catches more of your attention. So if you look at this, if the one that catches your attention most is the smallest one, the last one. Even though the top font is the largest. This is because the font below appears to be heavier with more contrast. Okay, the word is different from the rest of that. That's why it caught your attention. All right, so with that being said, we're going to move to the next one because we do not have time. Texture and tone can direct attention. You can use texture and tone to direct the viewer's attention when you're doing your design, even if some elements might be smaller or lower than other elements on the screen. So we have an example here. And in the first example, you'll notice that the title, you notice the first, I'm sure you can see the example one. What do you notice first? The title text. Why? Because, I mean, it is big. Okay, it is the largest on that particular example. Okay, but in example 2 now, when we change the tone of the text below, the 2 lines of text appear more balanced. You know, the first one was imbalanced, example 1, because the second text that says this is some text is actually smaller than the first one. But then we added this black, okay, line, and then we placed the text on it. It made this example 2, it made it more balanced. Okay, there is a balance between these elements now because of that. Now, in the last example, the scribble on the background. The scribble on the background actually conflicts with the title text, making it hard to read or recognize. So this makes the text below stand out even more prominently. Okay, so this is what texture and tone does. Direct your attention, direct the attention of the users, and all of that. So we've actually come to the end of visual hierarchy. And like I said, I love my students to, you know, I don't want your learning to end in class. Do your own research, find out why this is so and why this is so. So today I think I was having this talk with Iechi, and then he said that most people just want to take your word for it. They don't want to know why, okay, this text is actually like this. They just know that this text is not supposed to be like this. Okay, so find out how you can actually use texture and tone to direct the attention of your users. This is how you become, okay, better designers. Do your own research, find out why this is like this, why is this thing this way? Okay, why is this chair upside down? Why is this this way, and all of that? Okay, so make your own research, do your thing. That's how you get better. So now we're slowly getting into Figma, and I'm sure you guys are excited. I saw a lot of comments on Slack when I dropped that message. Okay, so wireframing. I'm just going to be showing you guys, talking about low fidelity wireframes, mid fidelity, and high fidelity wireframes. And that is what I'm going to be showing you guys on Figma today, because it is, you know, related to the task I gave. So first of all, you can see this, although it is a bit blurry, but this is an example. Okay, you can see the screen on the left, the first screen, number 1 says low fidelity wireframe. You can see the difference between them. Okay, so low fidelity wireframes, they are just quick sketches that make your ideas more tangible. So I have this idea in my head. I'm working on a project. I have this idea of how the homepage is going to be. What do? I sketch it out. Okay, it makes my ideas more tangible. It brings it to life. I put them on paper. Okay, I know this is where I place this. This is where I put my content. This is where my logo is going to be placed, and all of that. And they show UI elements as boxes and lines without detailed annotations, no diagrams, no text, and all of that. And it is mostly black and white. Okay, that's for low fidelity. This is another example. And then there's what we call mid fidelity. Mid fidelity is a step up from its low fidelity counterpart. Okay, I like to think of it as the intermediate stage and the bridge to move from low to hi-fi. Okay, and in mid fidelity, more details are added to the components. Here you add more information to specific elements. Like you can see on this example, this is mid fidelity. Text was being added. You know, you can see the icons, the search icon, the notification, the bell icon, and then the hamburger menu icon. You can see that too. So in the mid fidelity, more details are added to the components. So you can actually add more information to specific elements as well as set the visual hierarchy here. So I'm not going to be going into the high fidelity wireframes now. I'm not going to tell you about it now. You can see do your research. That will be in our next class because I do not want to confuse people. Okay. I don't want somebody now saying, because you did it in class and they now put it up in the task when I did not ask them to. So like you saw it on the task, you were asked to design, the low fidelity and mid fidelity respectively. So these are resources that I thought would be helpful, and I would like you guys to go through them. Number one, we have what qualifications do you need to become a UI designer? Okay, so these are the qualifications that you need to become a UI designer. So please go through this and read. Now, the importance of consistency in UI design. Why do you have to be consistent as a UI designer? Check that out too. And then we have common framing issues to avoid. This will actually help you when you're doing your task. So go through these, read, do your research, and be better. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's class, kind of, because we'll be going into Figma now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can, share a fresh screen. So like I said, we do not have much time. That's why I sent the link out to the slide on time so you guys can read through. So now we'll be going into Figma. If you have your system with you, okay, it's very nice if you go on Figma too and try to follow along. But I'm not asking you to draw me back though. Okay, so just follow along, do your thing. That will actually enhance your learning. Okay, so before we move into Figma, do we have any questions? I'm going to be entertaining just a few questions, just two. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand and then I'm going to call you. So let's make it as fast as possible while I share my screen because we do not have time. I'll be taking just two questions. Leo Ekene, please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening. I want to ask again because I asked previously and Ike said that in the during the duration of the class that it will be explained to us. I want to ask now, like the task we were giving yesterday about wireframe, mid wireframe and low wireframe. Are we going to use Figma to do it, or we are going to use a pen and paper or pen and a pencil and paper?
Okay, thank you very much, Leo. For the sake of I think I remember. I think I heard him tell you to put up that question so that others can actually see when we answer, so that others they don't have to ask the question again. Okay, for the sake of those not on this call. So Leo and every other person on this call, you're supposed to use Figma, okay, to design these wireframes. And thank you for reminding me. With that being said, is Amida Lawal on this call? Is Amida Lawal on this call? Okay, so I guess she isn't. She's actually the first person who submitted the task and she did a great job. So I'm just going to share my screen now and then we'll get into Figma as soon as possible. Okay. Okay, so this is Figma. This is Figma. And most of you be wondering why we're using Figma instead of any other software. Figma is actually very simple to use, and the reason why we're using it now, okay, is because as time goes on, when you get to the project phase, what Figma does, it allows collaboration. So like 5 or more people can actually work on the same project, and you can actually drop a comment for your team member and all of that. So that's why we decided to use Figma. It is actually very easy to use. So in the course of today's class, I'm just going to be showing you guys a few tools. I'm not going to show you everything about Figma today because we do not have time. Okay, we're behind time. So I'm just going to be showing you guys a few tools, and then I'll just get to showing you guys how to create a wireframe. So we have this, which is the move tool. This is what it does. And then we have the the frame. So this is where you get to select your frames. On the right, you can see frame for phones, iPhone 13 Pro Max and the rest, Android and all of that. We have frames for tablets, for desktop if you're designing a website, presentation, and the rest of that. And here we have rectangle. Okay, so this is what rectangle does. Backspace to delete. We have line. If you want to draw a line, we have arrow, we have eclipse, and all of that. So you can just do this at the comfort of your houses. Okay. This is the pen tool. You can also actually use this to draw and make shapes and all of that. Okay, so like I said, I'll not be showing you guys everything today. I'm just showing you basic. Someone said, are you using the Figma app on system or website? It's actually on browser website. Thank you very much, Ikes. So I'm just going to get my frame. I'm just going to get into business. I get my frame. I'll use iPhone 13 mini. Okay. And I like to name my file. Okay, and I want you guys to learn that habit. So I'm just going to name this. Maybe call it class tutorial. Okay. And then I'm going to name this, so I'm going to call this low fidelity. Okay. So when that is done, I'm just going to get my elements and start designing. So please pay attention because there's no time. I'll not love to go back or to be drawn back. So I'll just get my rectangle tool here. I'll just click, drop it here. Okay, so I'm going to take out the fill now. You can just follow my cursor, okay, to know what I am doing. I'm going to take out the fill and add a stroke. So I take out the fill here, add a stroke. I think 1 is fine. Let's see. Let me see what 2 looks like. Okay. All right. So when that is done now, I'm going to get my line. Let's click here. Sorry about that. Okay. And I actually made sure to align my work. So this is where you align to the horizontal centers. Someone say, why did you choose iPhone 13 mini? You can choose any screen, please. It doesn't have to be iPhone 13 mini. You can decide to work on it. I think it depends on what you're designing. If you're designing for an iPhone, like iOS, okay, you can use iPhones. If you're designing the mobile app for Android, you can use Android. Okay, so when that is done now, I'm just going to be running through. I'm going to get my rectangle tool again. I think that size is okay. I'm going to check my alignment again. Make sure it's aligned to the center. I make this 72 from here. So in case you're wondering how I checked my, the distance between this element and the one on the top, I press down on Alt. Press down on Alt, okay, to check the distance between them. So just like I did for the first one, I'm going to add a stroke and take out the fill. I'll make this 2. I'll get my line again. Okay. Check alignment again. Make sure it's aligned to the middle. Okay. So you're wondering, in case you're wondering what these lines are for, this is actually where your text is supposed to be. Here is for the logo. Okay, here is about if I want to add an image or something. Okay, and here is for the text. Okay, so with that done now, I am going to, what else am I adding to this? I get this, okay. I reduce this. So on the right, this is where you reduce the size. So if you want to constrain the proportions of your shape, it could be your rectangle, your circle, or anything. This is where you're going to click on this icon here. You can see here, constrain properties. So if I click this, okay, I think I should start by showing you. If I just decide to put 50 here without constraining the properties, this is what it looks like. Have you seen that? I'm going to undo that. Control Z to undo. So I'm just going to constrain the properties now and put in that 50 again, and then you see the change. You see the difference. Okay, so but we're not using 50. 50 is too big. So I would say let's try 20. No, 20 is still too big. 10. I think that's fine. So I'll just drag down here. And I'm going to duplicate this. You can either use Control D to duplicate, or you press down on Alt and drag your component or your element. I'm just going to do Control D. Control D again. I'm going to select all three. Distribute horizontal spacing between them. I think they're too close to each other, so I'll just make this 10. The spacing between them 10 or 15. I think that's fine now. So I'm going to group this. In case you're wondering how to group, Control G to group. Control G to group them together. And then I'm going to align this to the center, just like I did the rest. And I'll change the fill. This is where you change your colors. I'll change the fill to black. Change the fill to black. Take this up a little bit. Okay. When that is done, I'll get another rectangle. This is supposed to be my call to action button. Okay, so I think that's fine. Align it to the center. I'm going to add a stroke like I did for the rest and take out the fill. Make this 2 just like I make the rest, the weight. Okay, and then I'll get my text too. I'm going to call this call to action CTA. This is where I get to choose the weight of my font face, or my typeface rather. I think I want it to be semi-bold, or bold in fact. And I'm going to increase the size. I'm going to increase the size too. Or maybe make it 24. Okay, so now I want this text to be aligned to the rectangle. I want this text to be aligned to the rectangle. So what am I going to do? I'm going to group the text together with the rectangle. Hold down on Shift and select. Okay, when I've selected that, those two elements together, Control G to group them. Now I'm going to double click on this, align horizontal centers, and then align vertical centers. So I'm sure you saw that. So first of all, you group it, and then you select the elements and align it to align the vertical centers and the horizontal centers. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is the call to action button. What's the last thing? Is to get my action button. So I'm just going to get a small rectangle down here. I think this size is okay. I want the distance between them to be 24. This is 35. 28, 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we have 24. I don't want the distance between them to be too much. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did to the rest of them. Add a stroke, take out the fill. Make this 2. That's the weight. And then I'm going to call this action. Reduce that too big. Okay, so just like we did for the rest, just like we did for the call to action button, I'm going to group this together with the rectangle now. Like I said, hold down on your shift button and select the 2 elements together. Control G to group. Double click on the text, align horizontal centers and align the vertical centers. Okay, it's aligned now. We have 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. So it's aligned now. So yes, this is it. We have the low fidelity wireframe. So this is our low fidelity wireframe. And then now I'm going to duplicate this and make a few changes because I want to, so like I did before. I'm going to name this Control D to duplicate, please. Control D. Like I said earlier, Control D to duplicate, or you can either do Control D to duplicate, or you hold down Alt, your Alt key, and drag. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and do that again in case you were not watching. Okay, so now I'm going to hold down on my Alt key and drag. If I don't want to do that, I can just click on this, Control D. I think Control D is easier. Okay, but whichever one works for you. So I'm going to call this mid fidelity. Okay, so for this, and now I'm going to take this out. And I'm going to reduce this a bit. That size is fine. Align to the center. And I'm going to call this logo. Four looks small. That is fine. Okay, so just like we did to the other ones. Select the 2 elements together. Control G to group them. I'm going to double click on this. So yes, there you go. So there's what we call, we do not have much time, but there's what we call Figma mobile UI kit. And I would love to add a status bar to this. So I'm just going to type in Figma mobile UI kits. Okay, so you know what, guys, let's not go too far. Okay, let's keep it simple because of the task that was given. So I'll just continue with what I was doing. So we're designing the mid fidelity wireframe now. So just going to, okay, I like to add a few to this. I like to add a few to this. Okay, so that's fine. I'll do the same thing for this guy. And then since it's mid fidelity, like I said, you can add a few elements. So I'm going to add a text to this instead of this line. So I'm going to take out this line now and add a text. So because I do not want to type out a lot, this is what we call plugins. And there's actually a plugin for that we call lorem ipsum. So I'm just going to add that now. And I'm going to select the how many sentences that I want for this. So I'll say probably 3 sentences, and then I'm going to generate. Reduce this. Okay, I'm going to align this to the center. I'll align this text to the center now. It's too big. I reduce it. I'll just reduce this to 14. Okay, so we've successfully added a text to this now. I'm just going to change this color. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to change that. So I'm going to take this out because this is mid fidelity. I'm going to write here login. Align it to the center. So there you have it. We have the low fidelity and we have the mid fidelity, and you can see the difference between the both of them, like I stated in the class. Okay, so because of this class, I added this CTA to this button. Low fidelity, like I said, is just supposed to be shapes, to illustrate the components and all of that. So I'm going to take this out now. I did that for explanation sake. So in case you're wondering what that button was meant for, so I'm just going to take this out and do the same thing I did for the rest of them. Okay, so yes, this is an example of a low fidelity and a high fidelity wireframe. Sorry, a mid fidelity wireframe, low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframe. Just like I gave in the task. Okay, so the task said to design the Instagram interface. Okay, to give me a mid fidelity. Okay, for the Instagram interface, and I chose that because a lot of us go on Instagram every day. A lot of us go on Instagram every day and we use Instagram. So design mid fidelity. You can see an example of mid fidelity like I just did. Okay. And I remember saying that mid fidelity is like a step up from the low fidelity. Okay. And I told you guys I like to think of it as the intermediate stage. This is where you can actually add more details. Okay, more details are added to the components here. And you can also add more information. A lot of us, I saw a lot of submissions though. So that's the task. And then the number 2 question was to design a low fidelity wireframe for your WhatsApp web. Okay, the landing page and then the chat interface. So that's the task. And okay, I'm going to be taking, because of time, I'll be taking questions, okay, concerning the tax. But I do not have much time, so I'll just take like 2 questions so that we're out of here. If you have questions, please raise your hands concerning the task so that we can call it a night.
Okay, so yeah, I hope you can hear me. Okay, so yeah, let me just take some of these questions. But before I attend to persons who have raised their hand, someone has been asking a very funny or interesting question. Okay, so said, how do we apply it to Instagram for mid-level fidelity? And please, what has WhatsApp web UI got to do with the low fidelity? Kenny, okay, your task, you've been taught how to design, how to do a low fidelity and how to do a mid-level fidelity. Okay, now you're given a platform, WhatsApp and Instagram. You have used these applications. Go and design a low fidelity for those screens. Think for the Instagram, three screens, right? But there was no specifics. 3 mobile screens of the Instagram UI, mid fidelity only. So choose whatever part of your Instagram. Maybe it's your DM, maybe it's the landing, the home screen, or whatever, and do a low-fi, right? Okay, mid-level, mid fidelity for that, and then for the WhatsApp web. See, come on, guys, you guys need to be proactive. I would have expected that you just even go online and type WhatsApp web. If you don't even know about it, just type WhatsApp. You've used WhatsApp web, you just go online 2 seconds. WhatsApp web. Learn to research. Learn to search for things. So yeah, so just go to WhatsApp web. Okay, just go type WhatsApp web on Google, open it up, connect your phone. Now the landing page, the landing screen, and then the chat interface. Do the low fidelity for those two screens. That's what the question, that's what the task is, and I'm taking my time to explain it so that we don't have persons say they did not understand it. Kenny, I hope you're clear. You can actually reply on the chat. Okay, so someone said, are we supposed to use phone frames? You can't use a phone frame for the WhatsApp web now. You have a lot of frames there. You can see desktop, and she pointed that. So, you guys should be, like I said, proactive. Someone is saying, how many screens? Check your task. Go and check the task, please. So let's go to persons who have their hand raised. Flourish, go ahead.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, go ahead. Good evening.
Okay, so when I saw the task that was yesterday, I wasn't sure how to go about it. So I went back to Figma and I used this particular screen that she's showing, but I wasn't able to actually like use the tools there. So I went to FigJam and I was able to create the low fidelity for the WhatsApp web UI using FigJam. So now in the class, I'm seeing that she was able to use this particular Figma spots to actually make the wireframes. So what I'm thinking, like, is it wrong? Was it wrong that I actually used FigJam, or can I use FigJam, or must I use this particular spots to actually make the wireframes?
Okay, so can I ask you a question? When you want to design websites, applications in future, what are you going to use?
The actual Figma.
Thank you. So I think that answers your question.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Udeme, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. Hello, Udeme, are you there? Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to ask if for those that have submitted already, if we can still go back and make some corrections, just like that's what I want to know. Are we permitted?
Well, you're permitted as far as we have not graded you. Of course, I won't stop you. If you have not been graded, you're permitted. But if you have been graded and probably promoted, then maybe you're just doing that to become better at what you did. Okay. So Shandu, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is still about the choice of frames. I've seen videos where they'll say for designing 11 Pro Max is the best. Other videos they'll say choose iPhone 8 for mobile designs. So I want to know, is it that you just choose any frame that you feel like? Same thing for the desktop. Which one is most recommended for your designs? Thank you.
Okay, so just like you said, you've watched some videos who said iPhone 13, you've watched some who said iPhone 8. Probably I should actually tell you iPhone 12, and then you'll now be confused. Okay, so look, there are preferences to this. Okay, I wouldn't say there's a standard. Okay, but if it's just, of course, there's a system, there's a pattern. So if most person says iPhone 13, fine. If you say iPhone 8, it's good, but you're free. I think iPhone 13 is actually okay. So there's no stamped screen. Now the desktop, okay, is for of course when you want to design websites, you won't use your mobile, you won't use an iPhone except you're designing the mobile version. When we talk about mobile responsiveness, but that's a bit further, so don't even bother asking. Okay, except your divine, of course, you can open your a website on your phone, Okay, and the screen, of course, is, the content is a bit different, slightly different from how it is represented on the website. Okay, when you actually open it on the desktop. So you use your desktop for, of course, desktop representation of probably websites. So don't let it confuse you. For your task, you can use iPhone 13, you can use iPhone 12, you can use iPhone. So it's just, of course, if you notice the difference, is just the screen size. Okay, that's why it's very important to know what you're designing, know the product you're designing. Now, as an Android developer, okay, when I'm designing, when I'm implementing designs, okay, I'm very particular about, I get to check. Now I can actually start with, displaying it on let's say an iPhone 13 emulator, and it's very fine, it's very cool. But not everybody uses such screens, and then there's no one screen you can use for everybody. Okay, so there's no one screen. So I wouldn't tell
Okay.
you to use iPhone 13, use iPhone 8, or use iPhone 12. No, just on, first of all, know what you're designing. Okay, and then of course there are screens that have already, that are now popular. Okay, like the 13 and probably the 8 that you actually watch. You can actually use them for your mobile designs. Is that okay?
Yes. So
Uh
also, please, can I still go on?
okay, go on. About rounding up.
So
Okay, go on.
yeah, if I design with iPhone 11 Pro Max, for instance, will it affect the prototype if somebody with iPhone 8 is viewing it?
Okay, no, it will not.
Okay,
It
thank
it
you.
it shouldn't. It shouldn't actually. Well, prototyping. Yeah. No, 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 it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Okay, so Joy. I think we'll actually just take one. Okay, wait. So before that, Ihechi wants to say something. So your mentor wants to say something. So Ihechi, go ahead, please. We'll be rounding up now.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Okay, for the frame, I'm going to advise you to use 37 37581. That's iPhone 13 mini and or iPhone X. I think they're both the same dimension. So I would advise you to use that because it's smaller, and then if you can manage your space using that small frame while learning, designing with a bigger frame will not really be a problem for you. And I don't know, the question Shandu asked about if somebody uses iPhone 13 Pro Max and then the other person uses iPhone 8, will it affect prototype? I don't know, but do I understand the question? I just don't say if you are designing, I know, yes, you have liberty to choose the size of screen you want to use, but maintain one particular size of screen for your design. For every project you're starting, if you're starting, let's say you want to redesign WhatsApp, don't use iPhone 13 Pro Max for one screen. Then the other screen, you are using iPhone X. Then on that screen, you're using iPhone 12. You are going to destroy yourself. So that then for web, I'm going to say, no, I don't want, I'm not going to give you any. You can choose just while designing, maybe 2 to 3 months into design, you will find the favorite. But for me, I use 1440. Favor, please, can you go to the frames? For desktop. Okay, for me, I use the desktop screen 1440 by 1024. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so you just had the expert speak actually. Like I said, I'm a mobile app developer. I just like to intrude in people's classes. It's actually fun. It's actually fun intruding in your classes. Okay, so um okay, so we actually do not have time. So this is what we're going to do. And for the sake of those who would also want to learn, so we can answer questions that everybody gets to partake of. So this is what we're going to do. So let's take our questions to the channel. Okay. Let's take our questions to the channel. Just drop your question on the channel, and then please let's make use of threads. Okay. Very, very important. We're actually out of time and the class is about to start. Okay. So thank you guys very much. Thank you, Favor. Thank you, Hichi, also for the insights. Okay, I still said I really want to actually start designing, but Hichi is not actually letting me do. So people should beg him, tell him to allow me to join you guys and start designing. Okay, so guys, thank you very much. Okay, so let's have a wonderful time. Get to your task. If you have any questions, please use the beginner UI UX channel. Okay, so we can actually solve that. Thank you guys and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.